September 30th, 1955. Highway 466, Central California. A silver Porsche Spider lies crumpled like a tin can. Inside, a young man, 24 years old. America's brightest star. The ambulance arrives. The driver rushes forward. He kneels. He checks for a pulse, and then he feels it. A breath. Faint, but unmistakable. James Dean is still alive. For 70 years, the world believed he died on impact. But the ambulance driver said something different. Something that never made it into the official report. Something that changes everything we thought we knew about that day. Here is the story. September 30th, 1955 was supposed to be a day of freedom. James Dean woke up that morning in Los Angeles with one thing on his mind: speed. He had just finished filming Giant, his third and final film. He was exhausted, drained. The studio system had chewed him up, spit him out, and asked for more. But that day, he was going to forget all of it. He was going to climb into his brand-new Porsche 550 Spider, the one he'd nicknamed a Little Bastard, and he was going to race. The car was a masterpiece, silver with red racing stripes and the number 130 painted on the hood and doors. It was low to the ground, sleek, dangerous. His mechanic, Rolf Wutherick, warned him. His friends warned him. Even Alec Guinness, the legendary British actor, had looked at the car just days earlier and said, "If you get in that car, you will be found dead in it by this time next week." Dean laughed it off. He always did. The air that morning was warm and dry, the kind of California heat that makes everything shimmer. Dean was in high spirits. He wore a white t-shirt, red jacket, and blue jeans, his uniform. His hair was slicked back, his eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses. He looked like a god. Young, invincible, untouchable. He wasn't supposed to die that day. Nobody ever is. By early afternoon, Dean and Wutherick were on the road, heading north toward Salinas for a racing event. Following behind them in a station wagon were Dean's friend Bill Hickman and photographer Sanford Roth. They were documenting the trip, capturing the legend in motion. Dean was speeding. He always did. The Porsche hugged the road like it was made for it. But as the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across Highway 466, something shifted. The air grew cooler, the light turned golden, and at the intersection of Highway 466 and Highway 41, near the tiny town of Cholim, fate arrived in the form of a 1950 Ford Tudor. The driver's name was Donald Turnopseed, a college student, 23 years old. He was heading east, trying to make a left turn onto Highway 41. He didn't see the Porsche, or maybe he did but misjudged the speed. Either way, he turned, and James Dean had nowhere to go. The impact was catastrophic. The Porsche hit the Ford's passenger side at nearly 90 miles per hour. The sound of metal tearing apart echoed across the empty California landscape. The Porsche spun, flipped, and crumpled. Wutherick was thrown from the car, his body hitting the pavement with a sickening thud. Dean was trapped inside, crushed, mangled. Witnesses said it happened in less than 3 seconds. 3 seconds to destroy a legend. Let's rewind. Because to understand what happened in that ambulance, to understand why the driver's story matters, you need to understand who James Dean was in that moment. Not the icon, not the myth, the man. James Dean was tired, bone tired. He had spent the last 3 years being molded, shaped, and sold by Hollywood. He was a rebel, they said, a method actor, the voice of a generation. But inside, he was a kid from Indiana who just wanted to be left alone. He had lost his mother when he was 9 years old. That wound never healed. It festered. It bled into every role he played. Every character he became was searching for something: love, acceptance, a reason to exist. By the time he finished Giant, he was done. He told friends he wanted to quit acting. Moreno and his partner carefully began the process of extracting Dean from the wreck. It took time. His legs were trapped. His body was limp. They had to cut through metal. Pry opened the door. Every second mattered. Finally, they got him out. They placed him on the stretcher. Moreno checked his vitals again. The pulse was still there, weak, but there. Dean's eyes were closed. His face was pale. Blood soaked through his clothes, but he was breathing. Moreno loaded Dean into the ambulance. Wutherick was placed on a second stretcher. The doors slammed shut. The siren wailed. And they sped toward Paso Robles War Memorial Hospital, 28 miles away. Inside the ambulance, Moreno worked frantically. He applied pressure to Dean's wounds. He monitored his breathing. He talked to him. Stay with me, kid. Stay with me." But Dean didn't respond. His breathing became shallower, his pulse weaker. Moreno checked the time. 6:35 p.m. They were still 15 minutes from the hospital. He looked down at Dean's face, so young, so broken. And then, at approximately 6:40 p.m., James Dean's chest stopped moving. Moreno felt for a pulse. Nothing. He started chest compressions. He tilted Dean's head back. He breathed into his lungs. He tried everything. But it was no use. By the time they reached Paso Robles War Memorial Hospital at 6:44 p.m., James Dean was gone. The doctor on duty, Robert Bossard, examined the body. He noted multiple fractures, a broken neck, internal injuries. He pronounced Dean dead on arrival, but that wasn't the truth. Dean had been alive in that ambulance. Moreno knew it. He felt it. And for the rest of his life, he would carry that knowledge like a stone. The official report was clear. James Dean died on impact. That's what the newspapers said. That's what the studio released. That's what the world believed. He was killed instantly. No pain, no suffering, just a tragic accident. But Paul Moreno knew better. In the days following the crash, Moreno tried to speak up. He told the police. He told the hospital staff. He told anyone who would listen. James Dean was alive when he found him. He was breathing. He had a pulse. He survived for at least 15 minutes after the crash, but nobody wanted to hear it. The official narrative was already set. Dean died on impact. Clean, simple, final. Changing that story would open up too many questions. Could he have been saved? Was the ambulance too slow? Did someone make a mistake? Hollywood didn't want questions. They wanted a legend. So Moreno's story was buried, not officially silenced. Just ignored. He gave interviews over the years. Local newspapers picked it up, but it never reached the mainstream. The myth was too powerful. James Dean, the eternal rebel, frozen in time at 24. Dead before his prime. A symbol of youth and tragedy. But the truth is more complicated and more heartbreaking. Because if Dean was alive in that ambulance, even for a few minutes, it means he suffered. It means he felt pain. It means he knew he was dying. And that changes everything. Moreno never forgot that moment. He described it in interviews decades later. The way Dean's chest moved. The faint warmth of his skin. The desperation Moreno felt trying to save him. He carried the guilt with him. The feeling that maybe, just maybe, if they had gotten there sooner, Dean could have survived. But the doctors disagreed. They said Dean's injuries were too severe. A broken neck, massive internal bleeding. Even if he had been alive at the scene, there was nothing anyone could have done. He was gone the moment that Porsche hit the Ford. But Moreno didn't believe it. He couldn't. In 2005, on the 50th anniversary of Dean's death, Moreno gave his final interview. He was 80 years old. His hands shook as he spoke. His voice cracked with emotion. I know what I have felt," he said. "James Dean was alive, and I tried. God knows I tried, but I couldn't save him. And that's something I'll have to live with for the rest of my life." Moreno died in 2012. He never changed his story. So what does it mean? Does it matter if James Dean died on impact or in the back of an ambulance? Yes, because it's not about the facts. It's about the truth. And the truth is that James Dean didn't get a Hollywood ending. He didn't die instantly, peacefully, like the movies would have you believe. He suffered. He fought. And in those final moments, he was alone. That's the real tragedy. Not that he died young, but that he died scared and in pain. And nobody wanted to acknowledge it because it didn't fit the legend. Paul Moreno tried to tell the truth. He tried to honor Dean's memory by being honest about what happened. But the world didn't want honesty. They wanted a myth, a symbol, a perfect frozen image of youth and rebellion. But James Dean was never perfect. He was flawed, troubled, human. And maybe that's why his story still matters, because he reminds us that legends are just people, and people die, sometimes violently, sometimes unfairly, sometimes unfairly. And sometimes the truth gets buried because it's too painful to face. James Dean left behind 3 films: East of Eden, Rebel Without a Cause, Giant, each one a masterpiece, each one a window into a soul that was searching for something it never found. He became an icon, a symbol of teenage angst and rebellion. But he never got to grow old. He never got to see the impact he had on the world. And Paul Moreno never forgot the weight of that body on the stretcher, the faint pulse beneath his fingers. The desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, he could save him. He couldn't. But he tried. And that's what makes this story so haunting, because in the end, it's not about whether James Dean died on impact or 15 minutes later. It's about the people who were there. The people who were there. The people who tried. The people who carried the weight of that day for the rest of their lives. So here's the question. If you knew a truth that no one wanted to hear, would you keep telling it? Even if it cost you everything. Let us know in the comments, because that's what Paul Moreno did. He told the truth. And unfortunately, they don't make men like James Dean or Paul Moreno anymore.